I'll now call to order this meeting of the Appointments Committee. I think I was a rookie. And the clerking for us this afternoon is Melanie Figueredo and the Madam Deputy Clerk. I believe you've already taken the roll. Is that correct?
Roll's been taken.
All right. So is there any member of council that has a conflict, pecuniary interest to make concerning any item on this afternoon's agenda? Seeing no raised hands. We don't have any presentations or delegations this afternoon, and we have 3 items for consideration before us this evening. All the items will be moved and voted on separately. And so if I can have a mover and seconder, let me get that draft resolution, please. That's in respect to the report that we received. There we are. So if I can get a mover and seconder to get this item on the floor, we can then discuss it. So moved by Councillor Sicoli, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. So floor is open for discussion. Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Active Transportation Subcommittee be disbanded, or sorry, I'm looking at the one where Division 0 Committee, excuse me. The changes to that, I can accept those changes, but to the clerk, that committee is now going to take on traffic issues and parking changes, but it meets quarterly. So I'd like to change the time that it meets. If it's only going to meet quarterly, then it would be a long time getting some traffic changes done in some of the wards that are brought forward through the council, through the committee. That's my comment.
Through the chair, certainly we can add that as the procedural, or sorry, chapter 26 doesn't dictate meeting times. We can certainly incorporate that without an amendment. We can just we'll note that we can go to monthly meetings or bi-monthly meetings through discussions with staff.
Or can we also as needed? So I wouldn't want to have a meeting if we didn't have anything on the agenda, but if as needed, if items came up through ward councillors, we could do it that way.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Yeah, I have a concern in respect to item H, that the following task forces be disbanded. Now, I think the Mohawk Lake District Working Group, and so for the new councillors, that's not the Mohawk Lake Working Committee. But we also, the other one, New Hospital for Brantford Working Group, that makes a lot of sense, given that that process is now being led by the Hospital Foundation and a committee struck by the hospital. The First Nation Liaison Committee, the Tri-Council Working Group, I agree those should be disbanded because there's a lot of confusion about how those committees are set up, when they meet, why they're meeting. The Boundary Lands Task Force, we're dealing with that almost every month at Committee of the Whole operations. It certainly is a major priority for most of us, making sure that moves along, as it is for staff. I don't think we need a task force to move that along. I'll leave others to comment about War Memorials and Cenotaph Working Group. However, I do have a concern that the end result of this is we won't have a committee structure in terms of addressing our relationship with the county and also Six Nations. So I'm going to suggest that there be an amendment, and the amendment will call for this to go to staff for them to report to us on what the best mechanism or committee format would be. And I believe, Melanie, if you can get that up in the... So I was working with staff before the meeting, and this is what they're suggesting, so that seeking a mover and a seconder. So Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Sluss, any discussion on that amendment, which is in respect to sub H? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please take the vote on the amendment? And this will be by hands because we're not using e-scribe. Yeah, the amendment. What's in e-scribe? You told me we weren't using e-scribe. Just for that one. Okay, well, if you would take the vote, please, and mine is yes.
The amendment carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor: Mayor Davis, Councillor Sicoli, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Caputo, Councillor Sliss, Councillor Martin, Councillor McCreary, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Samwell, and Councillor Van Tilburg.
Good. So that's H as amended. Any other discussion? Yes, Councillor Carpenter.
Just a question of staff and the elimination of the Cenotaph Committee. There's a lot of work yet to be done there. Can staff tell me how that work's going to be done and how will it be moving forward without a committee?
A staff member that can comment on that? Sarah Monroe, is she? There you are. Sarah, can you give us an answer on that?
Through the chair to Councillor Carpenter, that's a great question. We do have a public arts subcommittee of a current Brantford Cultural Advisory Committee, and it is within their mandate to do work like this in collaboration with staff. So we can certainly refer all of the latest recommendations to that subcommittee to work directly with staff to complete those recommendations and come back to council.
So the direction that they've already been given about the updating and upgrading the Cenotaph, will that already be as part of their work plan?
Through the chair, any updates to public art are within the public art subcommittee's work plan. It's within their mandate. So it is a duplicate mandate with the Cenotaph working group. So we can have it directly in the public arts subcommittee that reports through the Brantford Cultural Advisory Committee to council.
I need a little more clarity. So what you're saying is that the direction that the Cenotaph working group has already given with regard to the monuments and upgrading of the Cenotaph will already be the work of the committee. Okay, that works for me. Thank you.
Councillor Sliss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm not familiar with that committee. Are there councillors on that committee? Yeah. Okay, you bet. I just got my answer. I don't need to go to staff. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Yes, Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, if to staff, if we were to eliminate any other committees, would this be the place for that?
Through the chair, that's correct. You can amend any city committee at this time as well.
Okay, the committee that reviews staff plan, the work plans, our employees' plans, that committee, Human Resources Committee. Yes, I'd like to move a motion to disband that committee.
You have a seconder. Second by Councillor Van Tilburg. So that'll be. So you're amending the resolution that's on the floor, I guess, by adding a paragraph. I guess E sub 1, or we can have it as K.
And I may speak to it?
Yeah. So Melanie, should we add it as K or E?
Yeah, we'll add it. I'm just putting the wording up so you guys can see it. Just give me 1 second.
All right,
here.
let's get the wording up, please. Pretty straightforward. So confirm, Councillor Carpenter, you're moving this, and Councillor Van Tilburg, you're seconding it. Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Sicoli, then Councillor Carpenter.
I have a question of staff. What would be the implication of this being disbanded? Who would make the decisions if this committee did not exist?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, the committee has two mandates. One is to review any organizational changes, and the other one is to review and oversee the HR master plan. We're in the process of doing the HR master plan now, so that would be reported on a regular basis, HR master plan, like we have to other priorities. And also the any reorganization of the organization would be done through a corporate management team. If they had significant budget issues, we would bring them forth to council during the estimates process or in a regular reporting cycle.
Follow-up question. This is a standing committee. Do other municipalities have HR as a standing committee that you know of?
Yes, and yes, I can through Mr. Mayor. Yes, they do, and no, they don't. Some have HR committees, different mandates to make sure their people are looked after and those sorts of things. Some other ones do have ones that review organizational structure. There's no standard across the province of Ontario. I would say most don't.
Most don't. That answers my question. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, I moved it because it's never been a committee that I've been in support of. I don't believe it's our role as board of governors to be in the weeds and telling staff how to run their departments. Or I think that's staff's job. And then when they make those changes, they bring them forward to us as a whole. I don't think it's necessary for us to be deciding who gets hired and who doesn't. I think it's more appropriate the staff perform this role. I think it's just an extra workload of staff for another reporting process, another group of meetings, and they're already busy enough. I just don't think should be in our work plan, and I won't support it going forward.
Councillor McCrory.
Mayor, thank you very much. Having served on this committee for a number of years, I can tell those watching and those participating in the first appointments committee tonight that this HR committee does add value to the corporation. It serves a strong role in terms of its review of staff plans for changes. It has helped generate a number of organizational benefits to the corporation. Quite frankly, it does the work which otherwise would land here on Tuesday nights for the Committee of the Whole to be doing, which would certainly lengthen the time that the Committee of the Whole spends on HR matters. I would also say that, excuse me, that the other role of the committee, which is unstated tonight, is that the chair and the vice chair do participate with respect to helping staff select candidates, which are then brought forward to Committee of the Whole or Council. I can't recall whether it's directed council or not, regarding appointments of senior staff to positions like general manager positions, CAO, clerk, and so on. So there is value in this committee. Don't believe it adds a lot of time to staff. It adds one extra meeting generally per cycle. But again, it would be time that this group would be spending on these matters otherwise. So I would hope that everybody would vote to retain this tonight. For those who question the value of the committee, perhaps get assigned to it tonight and spend some time there to find out what happens. And if in fact it's not deemed to have merit, we can certainly undo it at the next sitting of this appointments committee. But tonight, I'd like everybody to vote to continue this for the year and let the new councillors get some idea of what goes on there. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yeah, I'd add my 2 bits. I've actually found this committee at times very helpful. So it is not involved in the hiring of employees down below the general manager level, generally. And certainly what we're doing is we're reviewing proposals that have, say, restructuring of a department. And in particular, we focus on the impact on our budget and how it might impact or the productivity of that particular department and what the purpose is of it. At times, it's been a pretty good sounding board for staff before they bring something up to council for final approval. Also, generally the way our bylaws work, we do have a major involvement in the hiring of GMs and the CAO and the clerk. And this provides a committee to do a lot of the initial vetting of applications, the interviews. And then what we normally do is provide a slate of 2 or 3 or sometimes 1 to council for its final approval. So it does provide a useful role that's really hard, I think, to be able to do that Tuesday nights Committee of the Whole. So I would not be voting in favor of this, but it's a fair discussion. We always have this the first of every term of council, which committees we want to continue and which do we not. And I agree that the new members, you're at a bit of a disadvantage not having seen the committee at work. But you're getting 2 honestly held divergent opinions on the HR committee, and I think each have equal validity. So any further discussion? So Melanie, if we could take the vote on that. Is that East grab as well? Mine would be no.
Councillor Samwell. Oh, The amendment to item 4.1 is lost on a vote of 5 to 6. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Samuel, and Councillor Van Tilburg. Those opposed, Mayor Davis, Councillor Sicoli, Councillor Caputo, Councillor Sluss, Councillor Martin, and Councillor McCreary.
So any other discussion or amendments to the resolution that's on the floor? Seeing none? Then clerk, are we teeing this up by hand or by e-scribe? So this is on the entire resolution that's on the floor with the various amendments we've made. So mine would be yes.
Item 4.1 is as amended is carried on a vote of 10 to 1. Those voting in favor, Mayor Davis, Councillor Vicoli, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Caputo, Councillor Sluss, Councillor Martin, Councillor McCreary, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Samuel, and Councillor Van Tilburg. Those opposed, Councillor Carpenter.
Okay, we're now going to move to item 4.2, and this is the nominating subcommittee for citizen appointments. And there is an informational memo in the material that was provided to you in advance of this meeting. It provides a summary of what this particular committee does, which is in particular for some types of committee appointments, citizen appointments, there needs to be citizen appointments, there needs to be usually kind of a vetting process. So for example, police services, invite applications, there's interviews, and this committee would make that recommendation. So it's an important role in the appointment process for citizens. But we need if you're interested in setting up this advisory body that does save a bit of time for the appointments committee when we deal with citizen appointments, it has in the past been very useful. But I need a motion to get it on the floor, which is to strike the subcommittee. And then we'll also seek volunteers. So it's moved by Councillor Sicoli, seconded by Councillor Martin. So it's on the floor. We can have discussion about the resolution, i.e. whether we strike the subcommittee, but also I'd like some volunteers, assuming it's going to pass. So Councillor Sicoli would be named as, usually we try and get one from each ward. Councillor Sicoli, Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Samuel, Councillor Martin. I think that's, what about Ward 2? Oh, Councillor Caputo. And I would serve on it as well. So that gives us one member from each ward, which is a fair balance. So is there any discussion on that? If not, I'll call the vote.
Sorry, just a point of clarification through the chair. The committee, the nominating subcommittee is for any committees that council wishes to? Okay, perfect.
Not just police services. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, just once again, just to clarify further. So council, typically that we name specific committees just so we know what we're advertising for a nominating committee. If there's a list, that's totally fine. You can have one nominating subcommittee, but we just would need to know the names of the committee that this nominating subcommittee would be looking at. So Police Services Board. I'm not sure if there's any others that members would like to include.
Well, why don't you help us and tell us what else would be included in that?
So typically in the past, under our old appointments policy, we also had the nominating subcommittees for Property Standards and Committee of Adjustment. Right. Those are both quasi-judicial committees. Committee of Adjustment also has remuneration tied to it. We also have in the past used it for our Energy Board, which is no longer, is now different. So those would be, but again, if there's any other committee that council would like, we can accommodate that as well.
Okay, so can you help us by putting on the screen the actual wording, and we can have members add as they wish.
Second.
Yes, Councillor Scully.
For clerks, I think the intention behind me putting this motion forward was that any board or advisory committee that has a citizen component would filter through this subcommittee.
Through the chair, if I may.
Is that too vague?
Yeah, it's too vague because for a lot of the subcommittees, we simply advertise, and I guess you haven't gone through this. We'll then have a meeting. Usually it's in December, and we go through all the applications and decide which citizens we're going to appoint, like say to the Heritage Committee and whatnot. But there are some committees in particular which deserve, I think, a lot of thought about, well, one, a special promotion that the vacancies are there.
Okay.
And then two, a careful vetting of those who put their names forward, like the police services board and the committee of adjustment. I mean, those are decision-making bodies that are, those boards have a lot of responsibility. You want to make sure that you've got good quality applicants and that they're properly vetted. But is that necessary for every committee we have? Pretty cumbersome. All right.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity.
So, Melanie, you have that up there for us,
Yep.
please.
That's what I have so far.
Okay. So would you be putting a C then that, okay, Police Services Board. You also suggested the Committee of Adjustment. Right.
Through the chair, that's been used in the past. Again, it doesn't have to happen this time.
All right. So does anybody want something else added? Yes, Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, I'm actually all right with the Committee of Adjustment. Like you said, I would have been concerned if we had all the committee structure under there. I wouldn't want to see 3 members of council actually making the decision for all the council. So this way that allows all councils to look at all the committee members. And typically we give a high preference to those that put their names forward to run for office if they want to volunteer on a committee because they've already shown that they want to support the community in a way. So usually they get a higher thought in my process anyway. So I'm glad that we're only putting so many committees forward. So Committee of Adjustment works. I'm wondering if the licensing committee, we have a committee that looks, reviews. No, we're fine. We're fine. Those 2 are fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other committee you suggest be added? Julia, I think you made a few suggestions, or Melanie?
Through the chair, the nominating process, like you said, it's, typically we use it for interviews. It's also less intimidating if we're going to interview with not 11 persons. I would highly suggest the Police Services Committee of Adjustment. We've foregone that in the past. The nominating subcommittee doesn't have to do interviews. So including that, I would recommend that as well. Otherwise, I think that what you've put up is appropriate.
All right. So there are no other committees you'd recommend we add to this?
Not particularly, no.
Okay. Are there any other committees that any member of council wants added to the list? So right now we have the Committee of Adjustment, Police Services. Yes, Councillor Scully.
Just a quick question. Has economic development ever been a part of this? Or is there any value to?
Through the chair, in the past, Economic Development Advisory Committee did have a nominating subcommittee struck about 2 terms ago, and then they foregone and didn't want to do interviews. With the report that you just carried, you've actually disbanded the Economic Development Advisory Committee and recreated a new consolidated committee. So, I mean, it's really up to you guys if you wanted to interview for those roles. However, I don't necessarily see that as being necessarily required at this time.
And what about the paramedic board?
The Paramedic Services Board is something that we appoint to. We don't appoint specific to those ones.
Okay. And can I ask the clerk just to spell my name correctly in the motion, please? Thank you.
We'll get that corrected immediately. Okay. Councilor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you. And through to staff, are there any other committees that we appoint to that have a statutory requirement? Committee of Adjustment, of course, is governed by statute. Police Services is governed by third-party legislation. I'm thinking of, do we have a Property Standards Complaint Review Committee? Is that one that would be appropriate to include?
Yes, you can. Property standards, you can do for a nominating committee if you would like to, and has in the past. Like I said, it's been a couple terms of council since interviews have been done. Yes, property standards is a quasi-judicial body. We've got a number of quasi-judicial bodies as well, the Library Board, County of Health, those types of things.
Okay.
But typically the interview process hasn't been necessary for those.
And I think that was quite right. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm satisfied with the 2 on the list.
All right. So not seeing any other hands raised for discussion or further suggestions. So, Madam Clerk, if you please take the vote on striking the subcommittee. And mine would be a yes.
Motion for item 4.2 to strike a nominating subcommittee carries on unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor: Mayor Davis, Councillor Sokoli, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Caputo, Councillor Sluss, Councillor Martin, Councillor McCreary, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Samuel, and Councillor Van Tilburg.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the main event, which is actually appointing members of council to each number of task forces and committees. You've been given prior to this meeting a list of those committees. Obviously, we just amended that list. So some of them that you would have seen in preparation of this meeting, we won't be calling for nominations. So what we'll do is we'll go through the committees that are left and ones that have been restructured. And the clerk will call for volunteers and you'll raise your hand. And if we have more volunteers than are required, we then have a runoff vote for that particular committee. Once we've gone through everything and we have the positions filled, we then ask for a mover and seconder to get all of that on the floor as one kind of omnibus resolution, and we then vote on that. So, Madam Melanie, if you please take us through it.
Okay, so we'll start with our Social Services Committee, just noting that these members are also appointed to the Brantford Local Housing Corporation, as well as the Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation. And this committee is composed of one councillor per ward. So I'll start with Ward 1. Councillor Sokol. In Ward 2. In Ward 3. In Ward 4. And Ward 5. Okay, moving on to our Finance Committee. Once again, it's one member from every ward. We'll start with Ward 1. Ward 2. Ward 3. Ward 4. And Ward 5. Okay, Human Resources Committee, again, one member from every ward. We'll go backwards this time to mix it up. Ward 5. Councillor Van Tilburg, thank you. Ward 4. Oh, here. So much for going backwards. Can't have any fun. Sorry. Ward Councillor Hunt, thank you. Ward 3.
Did you say
Councillor Hunt? Was it Councillor Hunt? That's what the mayor just for.
no? Did Councillor Hunt put her hand up? I didn't see that.
For Human Resources Committee.
So who from Ward 4 wants to serve?
Through the mayor, I didn't see Councillor Carpenter's hand go up, so mine went up.
And but Ward 4 declines.
It did go up, or it didn't?
No, it did not. I don't believe in the committee. I won't
Okay.
sit on it.
So let me confirm that. Do either one of you want to sit on this?
Yes, I did put my hand
Okay.
up
All right. So
because I didn't see my ward mate's hand go up.
okay, continue, Melanie.
Sorry, Ward 2. And Ward 1, Councillor Sullivan. Okay. Planning Committee. So this is a pilot project right now. So I believe we have meetings till April for sure, and then we'll update council at that point. We'll start with Ward 1.
And you should confirm that it's once per month, starting at 9 and often continues until late afternoon.
Yes, it can go. We have them booked until 4. Can't guarantee it's done at that time. There's a Coley. Ward 2. Ward 3. 4. And 5.
Yeah, I just have a question. Is this have the potential to get back to the entire council beyond April?
Yeah, I think that's there'll be a report to us, probably committee of the whole, I would think, on the results of the pilot project that will then be made by committee of the whole and council.
Well, my input is it should hit all councillors because it's very in depth and we don't see, the other counselors don't get to see the presentations by people that come to those hearings.
Yeah, I agree with that concern. And that's why after the last planning committee meeting, I asked staff to give every counselor sort of a summary of the presentation made. Councillor Scully, do you have a comment?
No, I believe we did ask for a copy, a detailed copy, and I found that very helpful. We got a printed version and I found it helpful. I never sat on that. Thank you.
On to the Brant County Board of Health.
Brant County Board of Health. So there can be 3 appointees from members of council, any 3 members. Mayor Davis. Councillor Sless. Is there another hand that Councillor Sokoli. Okay, the GRCA Board of Directors, Carpenter and Mayor Davis. And Councillor Caputo, you also wanted to put your name forward for that board? Okay, so we're going to go for have to go for a vote, and it'll be a 3-way vote as there.
Well, should we see if there's anyone else?
Is there anybody else? Sorry, you're correct. Thank you. And Councillor McCreary.
Yes, Councillor McCreary.
Is there an opportunity to appoint more than 2 members to this board?
Through the chair, unfortunately, this board is legislated by the Conservation Authorities Act, and our membership is limited to that. So this wouldn't be one where we have any flexibility, to my knowledge. But we can reach out to GRCA if we can bring it forward at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
So do you want to get the names there?
Yes, Councillor Martin's got his hand up. Sorry.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, is this on that we can appoint an alternate so that if one of the 2 can't attend, then the 3rd person can go?
Through the chair, unfortunately, no, it's not. It's dictated specifically. We cannot.
Okay, thank you.
So, Melanie, can you put my name there?
Yep. So what we're going to do is we are going to have a 3-way vote. So we're going to have Mayor Davis, Councillor Caputo, and Councillor Carpenter. Every member must vote twice. We'll just do it by a show of hands verbally.
But only twice.
Only twice. So we'll start with Councillor Sokoli.
No, I think it's Councillor Caputo.
No, for her votes.
Sorry. Yes.
Can clerk staff confirm that councillors must vote twice, or may councillors vote up to twice with a multiple selection?
Councillors may vote up to twice.
Up to twice, thank you. Okay.
I would like to vote for Mayor Davis and Councillor Caputo, please.
Councillor Caputo, how would you like to vote?
I will vote for Councillor Caputo and Mayor Davis.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Caputo and Mayor Davis.
Councillor Hun.
Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Caputo.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Caputo.
Councillor Sullivan.
Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Caputo.
Councillor Sless.
Mayor Davis and Councillor Caputo.
Councillor McCreary.
I'll take Davis and Caputo for 10.
Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Carpenter, Mayor Davis.
And Mayor Davis.
Mayor Davis and Councillor Caputo.
So it's Councillor Carpenter with 5, Councillor Caputo with 9, and Mayor Davis with 7. So the selection will be Mayor Davis and Councillor Caputo.
Okay, if we could go on to the next item, please.
Okay, moving on to the John Noble Home Committee Management Summary. So this is 4 counselors. This is dictated by agreement. So again, we wouldn't have any opportunity to expand membership on this. We would only have 4 seats. Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Samwell, Carpenter, and one more. I have Councillor Carpenter, Sullivan, and Samwell. Is there one more seat? Okay, we'll leave that at 3. Okay, Brantford Police Services Board. So this is specifically in the Act, the head of council and one other member of council. We'll start with the other member of council prior to the mayor. Councillor Carpenter.
I'm nominating Councillor Samwell.
Okay, you're nominating Councillor Samwell. Okay. Okay, and then Mayor Davis, would you like to retain your seat?
Yeah, which one are you doing right now?
So we have Councillor Samwell for the other seat, and now it's if you would like to keep your seat. If not, we would go to our second member of council.
Okay. Yeah, I'm confused. Are we dealing because the Act says specifically it's the head of the municipal council?
Correct.
And if the head is not prepared to do it at the current time, then council can appoint someone else by resolution. Is that what we're dealing with?
Now that's what we're dealing with. Yes.
Okay.
So you, any member of council, if you don't.
Yeah. So I'm confused.
Sorry. Are you indicating this is our final opportunity to nominate for the one council seat?
Yes. Did you want to?
Councillor Martin.
Okay. So I'd we'll do a vote. So I have Councillor Martin and Samuel. Is there any other names for that seat?
I've just got a question. So I'm looking at the previous list and there's 2 councillors on the.
They'll be cleared up in a minute.
Okay.
So are there any other names for that seat? Okay, so we're going to do a vote. Again, you have 1 vote only. Let's start with Councillor Sokoli.
I'd like to vote for Councillor Martin, please.
Councillor Caputo.
Councillor Martin, please.
Councillor Martin.
Myself.
Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Sullivan.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Sless. Councillor Sam. Councillor McCreary.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Samwell.
And Mayor Davis.
Councillor Martin.
So that is 5 for Councillor Martin and 6 for Councillor Samwell. So that will be count for Councillor Samwell. So then the other seat now is for the head of council, unless he chooses to not take that seat.
Yeah. So currently, and Councillor Hunt, this is why you see the name of 2 councillors, because I elected about a year ago not to sit. And I'm still making that election at least at the current time. I expect that'll change through the year. There's some other issues that I'd like to focus on, in particular the downtown, the priority planning, the budget, relationships with Six Nations, OBCM, and of course the County of Brant. But I believe that through the year, sometime during the year, I'll be in a position to resume my statutory duties in respect to the Police Services Board. But for now, we do need, this council needs to appoint the person that's there as my designate representative, whatever. And that currently has been Councillor McCreary. And so I'll nominate Councillor McCreary for that position.
Okay, so we have Councillor McCreary, and just as further clarification in the bylaw for this position is at the discretion of the mayor, so the mayor can reclaim his seat for this position at any time, just to be clear. So it'll be Councillor McCreary. I don't see anybody else. Okay, Brantford Public Library Board. Sorry, Councillor Carpenter.
We get to nominate again still? Yeah, okay. I'm going to nominate Councillor Martin.
Okay. So we'll do a vote. Are there any other names for that seat on the police board? Okay, so we will do a vote again. So we have Councillor McCurry and Councillor Martin. So Councillor Sokoli, how would you like to vote?
I would like to vote for Councillor Martin, please.
Councillor Caputo.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin.
Myself.
Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Samwell.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Sullivan.
Councillor McCurry.
Councillor Sless.
Councillor McCurry.
Councillor McCurry.
Not for me.
Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Martin.
And Mayor Davis.
Councillor McCurry.
So it's 4-7, so it will be Councillor Martin. Okay, now we'll move on to the library board. So this is 2 members of council, and this is governed by the Public Libraries Act. Councillor Samwell, and Councillor Carpenter, and Councillor Caputo. Okay, so we'll do a vote.
Can we speak to it? I think we can speak to any of these. Can we not?
Sure, you can speak to either.
Unless the rules are, yeah, I put my name forward. Either way, it's hard to believe, but after 30 years being in council, it's the one committee I've actually never sat on. So I just thought I would put my name forward. If someone actually really wants it, that's okay too.
Here, then.
Any other speeches? So.
Are there any other names? No other names? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we will start again. Councillor Sokoli.
Sorry, who are the names again? The screen just says Councillor.
Sorry. Councillor Samwell, Councillor Carpenter, and Councillor Caputo, you have 2 votes.
Caputo and Carpenter.
Councillor Caputo.
Caputo and Samwell.
Councillor Martin.
Caputo and Samwell.
Councillor Hunt.
Carpenter and Samwell.
Councillor Samwell.
Samwell and Caputo.
Councillor Sullivan.
Samwell and Caputo.
Councillor Sless.
Samwell and Caputo.
Councillor McCurry.
Carpenter.
Councillor Carpenter.
Samwell and Caputo.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Samwell and Caputo.
Mayor Davis.
Samwell and Caputo.
Okay. Councillor Samwell and Councillor Caputo. Okay, the downtown BIA. So this is governed by our municipal code, chapter 30. It does stipulate the mayor, 1 member of council, and 1 alternate. So Mayor Davis, I'm assuming you'll keep your seat.
Yes.
Okay, and then for the councillor position, Councillor Van Tilburg. And for the alternate position,
If my ward mate wishes it, I will swap to the alternate.
okay, so Councillor Van Tilburg will be the alternate. Okay, perfect. And the Grand Bridge Energy Board, this is new. This is also governed by an agreement, so we wouldn't have the ability to change the membership here. It does stipulate the mayor and then 1 alternate member of council who would act instead of the mayor. So they would only attend when the mayor cannot attend.
If I can just make a comment about that. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to defer serving on the police service board. There's a lot of work coming that this board is dealing with coming out of the merger that took place last year. So it is a board that I give a lot of priority to, and the meetings usually last a day each month. So definitely though, I could at times not be able to attend. And so I'd certainly like an alternate that's really interested, and I'll try and keep you up to date on what's going on. But it's fairly involved corporate matters. It's like a high level corporate board. And so it helpfully have a real interest in those kinds of issues.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Caputo, if he would take it.
Okay. Seeing no other names, we will have
Do
Councillor.
you accept?
No. Oh.
I accept.
Councillor Martin's got his hand up. And he'd like to put his name forward.
So Councillor Martin, do you want your name on there?
Yeah, I'd like to be on this board because I was involved with the merger negotiations. I have quite a bit of knowledge of this, and if you're unable to attend a meeting, I can hit the ground running with knowledge of what set this up and a lot of the background on what goes into this whole operation. So I think I bring value to the table as your alternate on that, and I'd appreciate council support for that.
Any other hands on this? Well, Melanie, I think you've got to
Okay.
do a vote.
We will go backwards this time. Mayor Davis, you have one vote.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Caputo.
Councillor McCreary.
Yeah.
Councillor Sluss.
Caputo.
Councillor Sullivan.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Samuel.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin.
Myself.
Councillor Caputo.
Myself.
And Councillor Sicoli.
Councillor Martin.
So that is 7-4 for Councillor Martin. So it will be for Councillor Martin. Okay, we'll move on to our advisory boards and committees. So these boards and committees are under Chapter 26. So we do have some flexibility with these ones. We'll start with the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
I'd like to nominate my ward mate, Councillor Linda Hunt.
Councillor Hunt. Okay.
I have a question. We used to have two. The first term, Councillor Kings and myself served, and then it was reduced to one. Do we have a record of how that happened?
It was an amendment that was actually done at a similar appointments committee at the beginning of the term. We can amend it to make it 2 again. That's totally something we can do.
Perhaps I would like to see that done. And if so, I will run. And if not, then I will not run.
So you're putting a motion on the floor then that we expand it to 2?
A motion to have it go to 2 councillors.
Okay, so seconder for that? Councillor Sullivan? Any discussion on the amendment to move that 1 to 2 from 1? Okay. Now we can take the vote on that.
Question first, do we have a second councillor that wants to sit on that?
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So not seeing any discussion. I guess all those in favor, raise your hands. Opposed, carried. So we have Councillor Hunt and Councillor Van Tilburg.
The Brantford Airport Board.
Nominate Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin. The other hands. Okay. Okay, and this, the Impaired Driving Committee was removed via the report that was just approved, as was the Cultural Advisory Committee, so won't be appointing to those. Heritage Committee.
To nominate Councillor McCreary. I decline to nominate Councillor Sullivan.
Okay. There is a second seat on this one, if anyone is.
I nominate Councillor McCreary.
Think Councillor Samuel, you've been interested in this one?
I think if there's 2 other councillors, then I'll let that stand.
I decline in favor of Councillor Samuel.
Looks like, are you letting your name stand? All right. Anyone else? No?
Brownfields Community Advisory Committee. Councillor Samuel. The Cultural and Built Heritage Grant Program was disbanded in the previous report, as was the Economic Development Advisory Committee. The environment.
So Melanie, there was a replacement to that. Or is that going to be in here somewhere?
It's going to come up at the end. Yeah, it's just the last chart.
Okay, thanks.
The Environmental and Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee. Councillor Sullivan.
Councillor Martin.
Oh, Councillor Martin. Okay, would you like us to amend the chapter to include two seats for councillor? So we'll just do the same way that we dealt with the accessibility.
Right. So well, let me jump in as a chair. So Councillor Martin, you're moving, we expand this to two council appointees?
Sure.
Okay, is there a seconder on that? Second by Councillor McCreary. Any discussion on that amendment, which is expanding the Environmental Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee from one council representative to two? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? I think that passes, Melanie. So is there anyone else? We got Councillor Martin just before you, and Councillor Sullivan. Good. Okay.
Tourism Advisory Committee was addressed in the previous report and was disbanded. Vision Zero Road Safety Committee. So this is usually one from every ward. So we'll start. Okay, so Ward 4, we have Councillor Carpenter. Ward 1 is Councillor Sicoli. Ward 2, Councillor Sless. Ward 3, Councillor Martin. And Ward 5, Councillor Sandwell. Okay, now on to our task forces. Again, these can, the compositions of these can be changed. Boundary Lands Task Force was addressed in the previous report, it was disbanded. Building Construction Process Review Task Force. Councillor Carpenter, McCreary. Is there two more? Caputo. Anybody else?
We have fourth. Councillor Scully. Yeah.
Trespass Order Appeal Committee.
I think Councillor Van Tilburg, by his shrug, is indicating he's willing to volunteer for that.
I've never seen us do anything with this.
But this could be the term that we see it.
I'm there.
Van Tilburg, Councillor Sullivan, and Councillor Sless. First Nations Liaison Committee was dealt with in the first report, so we'll be appointing. Joint Use Committee, so we used to have one Joint Use Committee when we had one agreement. We now have a separate agreement with the public and separate school boards. So they are two separate bodies. There is nothing that stipulates the same members have to sit on either, but the mayor is ex officio on both. Are there any, and we wouldn't have any ability to increase their membership on either of these.
May I comment?
Yes, are you volunteering or do you have?
I want to comment first. I think that, you know, because we've separated both the Joint Use Committee, it is the same agreement on the city side, and it may not be on the school board side. So I just would suggest that we try and keep those the same counselors on there. So when they're making an arrangement with Brant County Catholic School Board and they're making it with Erie, that we have some of the same regulations and same rules. So we have some consistency and fairness of how the Joint Use Agreement works. Having it separated, we could get ourselves into a quandary where we have one agreement having some special rights and another agreement not. I'd be happy to put my name forward. I've been on it before, but anybody that wants,
I'm agreeing with you, Councillor Carpenter. I think it's essential that the committee, both committees have the same membership. One important role for the committee, and the reason why it's separated, I think, is because they are two separate agreements. This acts as sort of a mediation committee if there's a dispute in respect to staff of the board and the city, then this board acts almost like a mediator working with representatives from the school board. So, and the agreements are, there are some differences now. So ideally the two councillors agreeing to serve should be the same. So Councillor Curry, are you volunteering?
Yes, so we'll get Councillor Carpenter and I something to work on together.
Isn't that wonderful? Why don't we, you're both agreeing to serve on both? Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
The Mohawk Lake District Working Group was addressed in the previous report. Municipal Accommodation Revenue Tool Task Force.
This is the task force that's overseeing a potential accommodation tax.
Yes.
So, Councillor McCurry, you're volunteering. I'm their ex officio. Anyone else? Councillor Sluss? Anyone else want to volunteer? Councillor Sikoli? I think that's, don't see any other volunteers.
We can leave that at 3. A new hospital for Brantford Working Group was addressed in the previous report, as was the War Memorials and Cenotaph Working Group. Southwest Task Force is usually the 2 Ward 1 councillors and then any other interested council representatives.
Councillor Sullivan.
So, okay, so we'll
I'll just say as a ex officio, I'm on it, and generally I do like to attend. So it's great to have another councillor there, though. Any volunteers? Okay, Councillor. No, but I'm ex officio, so. I'm a little confused. My name's not there, but I'm ex officio, which means I go. And this is one, I don't go to every committee that I'm ex officio on. Otherwise, like I just wouldn't have the time to cover everything. This is one I do attend.
Through the chair, automatically appointed are the 2 Ward 1 councillors.
Okay.
So just any additional.
Thanks for that clarification. So Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Sikoli, you're already there as the ward councillors. Is there anyone else that wants to serve? Councillor Caputo?
Okay, so we have those 3 there. Tri-Council Working Group was already addressed in the previous report. Zoning Bylaw Task Force.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is typically 1 from each ward. So you've got Councillor, you've got
Ward 3. We have Ward 4 is Councillor Carpenter. Ward 2.
Yeah, I'll just say this will be a heavy load, but it's critical because it'll be shepherding the comprehensive zoning bylaw over the next year. So
Is that Councillor Caputo? Do you have your hand up?
May I comment? It also fits with the planning committee because it is dealing with planning issues. So it would make sense that the person that's on planning would also sit on this. Just a suggestion.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Ward 3, we've got Ward
2, we have 2, 3, and 4. We'll do 1. Councillor Scully.
Table talking.
And 5. And we're almost done, guys, I promise. Community Heritage and Cultural Space Task Force. This one had 5. It did have, it doesn't stipulate it has to be 1 from each ward, but it can be.
So you're looking for volunteers.
Was that rolled into the omnibus committee? I will volunteer.
Any other volunteers? It's an interesting committee.
Through the chair, it is in order to also disband.
Well, we ideally like to have at least 4 or 5 for this committee if it's going to have any kind of perform any meaningful work. So do we have a motion to disband it, or do we have some more volunteers? Councillor Sluss. Ward 2, you're volunteering. Excellent. Anybody else? Councillor Sullivan. Oh, we're getting there. Anybody else? I think that's as far as we can. take it this evening on that one.
For councilors' reference, there also are citizen members on this committee as well. So it's not just members of council, but we can leave it at 3. Police Station Task Force.
Councillor Samuel.
Councillor Sakoli and Councillor Martin. We are all good there. Okay. Mayor's Economic Recovery Task Force.
Yeah, I can just make a comment on this one. So this was established during COVID. It was set up early on during COVID. It made a number of excellent recommendations, a lot of stakeholders. The last year, it really is not met. We've left it in place in case. Hopefully not, but if we should run into a further resurgence of the pandemic, it would be useful to have the structure in place. Yes.
Mayor, I believe it would be good karma and wishful thinking to strike this from our list of committees. It can always be reconvened, God forbid.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor McCurry, seconded by Councillor Carpenter. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. It's we can easily reconstitute it if we have to, and as you say, hopefully we never have to. So, not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? So that one's off the list.
Okay. User fee and non-resident review task force. 4 members of council.
I've got a question about that. So for the new members of council, this was looking at the fees that we charge for our recreational facilities, libraries, etc., to determine whether there was any merit in considering a 2-tier fare structure. A lot of the work has been done, but I'd ask staff, is there anything left to review? Because this committee did review like sport facilities. Yeah, Joel, if you can answer that for us.
Yes, Mayor Davis, you are correct. So the committee has done quite a bit of work. There was approved fee increases for field rentals as well as arena rentals. There is an outstanding action item from the last committee meeting that would be coming back to another meeting of this working group. Or it could come directly through councillor and estimates committee meeting as well. But it was to direct staff to investigate a minimum of 50% cost recovery for all aquatic rentals and 100% for fitness room rentals at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center.
Any other business left unaddressed?
That is all. There was one recommendation that was approved to bring an item through the capital budget process in 2023. That is happening. So staff have already taken that direction and we'll include that in the estimates process.
So if we were to disband this committee at this time, given those 2 items that are left unaddressed or have to be addressed, how would they be addressed? So the policy on pool rentals and the other policy, how would that be addressed?
I may need some help from the clerk, but I would think that there could be some amendment made that would see any of these outstanding items either be referred to through the finance committee, would likely be the most appropriate place.
What if an amendment that said that once this committee's addressed those items, that it then be automatically disbanded? Is that in order to?
Through the chair, it can be either way. We can have the motion to be disbanded and those items come through finance, or it could be to be disbanded. And what the final report from this committee would have a recommendation to be disbanded. So it's whichever council wishes.
So what's the pleasure of the council? I think Councillor Corbin, you had your hand first.
Yes, I'd like to move a motion this committee be disbanded and the final report be directed to the finance committee for response.
That's seconded by Councillor McCurry. Okay. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of disbanding, please raise your hand. Opposed? Carried.
The Wall of Recognition Task Force. Councillor McCreary for Ward.
Yes, I would like to serve as well.
Okay, so Councillor McCreary for Ward 3, Councillor Sullivan for Ward 1, Councillor Sless for Ward 2, Councillor Samuel for Ward 5, and Ward 4, Councillor Carpenter. Okay, the Public Consultations Task Force, this is new. It was recently struck, so it has no previous members. It would be 5 members of council. Councillor Samwell. Councillor Hunt. Councillor McCreary. Councillor Caputo. And there's one more seat.
I'd like to nominate my ward mate, Councillor Sullivan.
Okay. And Councillor Sullivan. Okay. This is our last set of committees. These are other committees that are run by other organizations outside of the city that request councillor appointees. We wouldn't really have any ability to change composition. These 2 are specifically dictated by agreement, and then we have a couple other ones that are external. So these 2 are, again, we don't really have the ability to change membership. City County Liaison Committee, 4 members. And there's also 4 corresponding members of the county as well.
Definitely need some volunteers for this one. It's a fairly limited scope. It's really to deal with disputes coming out of the John Noble Home or coming out of the Paramedic Services Committee. Did not really meet, I don't think, in the last term, but once. We've met once. So it's a critical committee to have when you need it, but it doesn't involve a huge time commitment because it generally doesn't meet. So
yeah, Councillor Sless, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Carpenter.
And maybe the other person that's on the paramedic committee. I put my name forward because I'm on John Noble committee, and the issues arise from John Noble paramedics. So whoever's on the paramedic committee should be.
So we still have 1 seat left here, and then there will be 3 for the paramedic services. Is there a 4th person that would like to sit on City County Liaison?
ad hoc in this one?
No, you would count as a member.
Okay, well, already count, so I got to volunteer for it.
You got to volunteer.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I volunteer.
Okay. So Councillor Sless, Sullivan, Carpenter, Mayor Davis. Paramedic Services Committee, again, any 3 members, which may include the city mayor. Mayor Davis.
I would like to nominate Rose Sicoli.
That's Councillor Sicoli, and I'll accept.
Yeah, just one word of caution. It does meet, usually it's once a month. And it usually meets at 9 in the morning in the county chambers. Just so you know that. Typically it's once a month. It can be more than that depending on the issue, but that's pretty rare.
Is there one more member who would like to sit on this committee? There are 3 corresponding county members as well.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Martin.
Can I second that?
If no one else is willing to take it, I'll take it.
Such valor.
Now these are our external committees. Again, these are requested from other organizations in the community. For the Chamber of Commerce. Councillor McCreary.
So I nominate Councillor Linda Hunt.
Okay, so we have 2 there. So we'll do a vote. Is there anybody else that would like to put their name forward?
I'd like to nominate Councillor McCreary.
So I have Councillor McCreary, I have Councillor Hunt. Okay, so we will do our vote. We will go backwards again. You have 1 vote.
To the chair, to the mayor. Can we have 2 on this one?
I don't believe we can.
This committee is operated by the chamber, so we wouldn't really have the ability to change their membership, unfortunately.
Speaking,
so Mayor Dave.
Speaking to it, please. We do get to speak to it.
Go ahead before we call the vote.
Yeah. My ward mate, on behalf of my ward mate has been a member of the Chamber of Commerce for their business, has some experience. And the other candidate's been there for 10 years, I believe, or longer. And I think it's probably time for some fresh approach.
Can I ask in terms of comment, so do we review this each year? Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a 1-year term.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, Mayor Davis, how would you like to vote?
Councillor McCreary.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Hunt.
Councillor McCreary.
I vote for me.
Councillor Sless.
Councillor McCreary.
Councillor Sullivan.
We'll keep this interesting. Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Samuel.
Councillor Hunt.
Councillor Hunt.
Myself.
Councillor Martin.
Councillor McCurry.
Councillor Caputo.
McCreary.
Councillor Sicoli.
Councillor McCreary, please.
So that is 6-5, so it will be Councillor McCreary. Right, Elder Abuse Advisory Committee. Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Sicoli, both like to put your name forward. Is there anybody else who would like to put their name forward? Okay, we'll do the vote. We will start with Councillor Sicoli.
We could increase this to 2 very easily.
We could reach out to them and ask. We just don't operate this committee, so I couldn't, through the chair, couldn't confidently tell you that.
I chair this committee, so I can tell you confidently that they would be happy to have a second councillor on here.
Okay, we can appoint 2 and send that request to the board or to the committee as we normally do.
So I'll jump in as chair. So I think we need a formal resolution to do that, or amendment, I guess I can call it that. So I assume Councillor Carpenter, you're asking that we expand it to 2.
Yes, I move that.
All right. Is there a seconder on that? Second by Councillor Samuel. Any discussion? Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, we have 2 nominees, and we have an assertion that 2 will be accepted by the organization. Let me suggest that we conduct a vote so that we will know, in the event that we get a negative answer from them, we'll have someone we can appoint without having to redo this election, okay?
So are you suggesting we defer this then until we have formal input from the committee?
No, I don't believe I used the word defer. What I'm suggesting is we have 2 people nominated. Let us take a vote and determine who finishes first and second. In the event that this organization does not agree to a second one, then we will have someone that we can appoint.
All right, but first of all, we have a resolution on the floor amendment moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded by Councillor Samuel. And so that's to increase this to 2. I guess it would be subject to the committee agreeing or accepting that. Is that fair to say, Councillor Carpenter?
Yes, and I'm on this committee, and this committee was sort of broken when we got there, and we put it back together, and we've have difficulty getting volunteers on this committee because it's volunteer based and for the community organizations. And I can tell you that the committee would be quite pleased to have 2. So I don't think we have to have this, what do we call it, blind vote or second vote concept. We could just simply add the 2, and if there's a problem with that, I guess we'll deal with it later. But I don't think there would be. I'm quite sure there would not be. There's no need for.
All right, so let's keep it procedurally correct. So we do have an amendments on the floor. We're not talking about voting yet, other than the amendment, which is a go to 2. Any discussion on that? Yeah, I'd be concerned about that. I would never presume to speak on behalf of a committee. And I think it would be useful to have the input of this committee, whether that's acceptable to the committee members, given that I think there are citizen committee members. So without having that input formally from that committee, I won't vote in favor of this amendment. Any other comment? Okay, you can call a vote on the amendment. Sorry, Councillor Sicoli.
Sorry, can I just see the amendment?
So the amendment would be that the city clerk be directed to send a letter to the Brant Elder Abuse Committee requesting an increase in membership, and then your 2 names would be included.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm confused with that, Melanie, I think.
So essentially we would be appointing these two and we would be sending a
No,
letter.
but hang on. It's an amendment we're dealing with. The
Right.
amendment is, if I understand Councillor Carpenter's resolution, the amendment was this be increased to 2.
Right, because it's not our committee, the amendment, we can't increase it to 2, so it would be that we
That was
ask.
not the resolution that was put on the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
No, the resolution would be, as read, works very well, that we appoint 2 and we ask the committee if that's all acceptable.
I thought we were being assured that it was, but if you're clarifying your resolution, which is, if you could please tell us again, what is the wording of your resolution?
That we appoint the 2 that have put their names forward. This should not be difficult.
Okay.
Appoint the 2 that have put their names forward to sit on this committee, more the merrier, quite frankly, and that we send a letter to the committee asking them if that's fine and that they have that support.
Okay.
It's really not hard.
All right. So the seconder, I think, was Councillor Samwell. Are you accepting that reinterpretation of the resolution?
Yes, I accept.
Okay. All right. So I still think we have a problem though. What if they say to us, no, just 1?
So through the chair.
So I think we have to, because what happens if the committee comes back to us and says, no, we just want 1?
Sorry, through the chair, if I may.
Yeah.
If that does happen, then staff can simply write a report coming forwards and advise, and we would just amend the bylaw accordingly.
I would commit that if the committee says 1 is only acceptable, I would happy to acquiesce to Councillor Sicoli if that's what the committee writes back. I'm confident that won't be the case, but if that's what you're looking for, I'm happy to do that.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Carpenter, for that clarification. Call the vote.
All those in favor of that amendment?
I think we have the resolution that's on the floor. It was clarified. The seconder agreed. So if you might just, there seems to be some confusion, Melanie. So if you could please put on the screen what that amendment is, then we'll call the vote. So there we have the composition be requested, that the composition be requested to be increased to 2 members of council. Shouldn't that read, Melanie, that the committee be requested to increase to 2 members of council? I think that's what we're asking, right? We're asking the committee.
Is that the composition?
Is that what you have in mind, Councillor Carpenter?
Mr. Mayor, save all the confusion. I'll just withdraw and Councillor Sicoli can be on this committee.
Okay. All right. So that's withdrawn. Does the seconder agree that it be withdrawn? Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Okay, Brant Food System Coalition. Mr. Samwell? Brant Waterways Foundation.
We definitely need one on this one.
I know.
I second it.
Well, I did open my mouth and said how important it is, so that means I'm there, unless there's someone else who wants this. So be it.
Community Physician Recruitment Committee.
So just, this is the committee that works with a staff member at the hospital, and that's in recruiting physicians for our community. And we contribute, I think it's around $50,000 a year to that position. So it is important that we have someone there who's speaking on behalf of our community and monitoring what's being done to attract more physicians to our community. And that in the past has been Councillor Utley. So look, I see a lot of blank. Councillor Scola, you're volunteering for that one. Good. Great.
Okay, and now for the two new committees that were created via the adoption of that report. So the Economic Development, Tourism and Cultural Initiatives Advisory Committee, we had 2 councillor members for this.
I nominate my ward mate, Councillor Linda Hunt.
Okay, is she?
She has expressed concern to be on the committee.
Okay, I can just wait just 1 second until she's back in her seat just to confirm that. Sorry.
But we do have to have 2, so maybe let's see if there's anybody else. We'll confirm with Councillor Hunt when she comes up. Anyone else interested? Yeah.
Councillor Samwell?
I think so. Councillor Hunt, we have you as one of the 2 to the new Combined Economic Development, Tourism and Cultural Initiative Advisory Committee. Are you content with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And then finally, the Planning Advisory Committee. So currently this committee, it was part of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. Members sat on both. They were 2 separate committees. This is a legislatively required committee, but we can change the compositions if so desired.
Well, does it make sense that it be the members of this committee that we just struck?
It could be, if that's what council wanted.
Sorry, through the chair, the Planning Advisory Committee is for citywide applications that come forwards in regards to planning legislation. So it's not necessarily specific to the economic development cultural initiatives one. So they could be separate.
But what has the tradition been in the past?
The Planning Advisory Committee was actually a secondary function of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. The composition of the Economic Development Advisory Committee included businesses. We've also included that now in the new Planning Advisory Committee. So it's not necessary that it be the exact same. Previously, the Planning Advisory Committee was sought to believe to be best under economic development, but it's not necessary.
Well, with that, do we have volunteers? The 2 that
nominate Councillor Samwell.
Okay. I think Councillor Samwell's shaking her head. Okay. Well, I would nominate the 2 that we just nominated to the Economic Development, Cultural, Tourism Advisory Board. I mean, this is intended to provide, business input into planning decisions. And yeah, I'm going to do that. So. Unless somebody else wants to do it. No, I'm not, but I'm suggesting someone make that nomination. I'm not actually nominating. I'm asking, are they interested in volunteering? That's not a nomination.
Shouldn't the first order of business be to extending the committee from 1 to 2?
Right, you are. So does one of those, of the 2 that we just appointed, they want to serve on this committee?
And I'm sorry, I missed who the second economic development. Oh. That's why I said it.
Yeah, that was Mandy.
Okay, since Councillor Samwell has certainly taken on her more than her fair share tonight, I will take this one.
Excellent.
Okay, and we have made it to the end. So through the chair, you would just need to move and second the full slate and then vote on that.
So I can have a mover and a seconder of the entire slate as we've amended it through the last hour and a half. So moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Sluss. Any further discussion on the full slate, which is what we're approving? Seeing no raised hands. All right. All those in favor, raise your hands. Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, may I raise a point of order?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, item 7 says notice of motions, and notice of motions are only allowed at committee of the whole. So could staff clarify why that's on the agenda?
Through the chair, the appointments committee is technically a committee of the whole because all members of council sit on it under chapter 15 for city's procedural bylaw.
So then my notice of motion that I've got coming up next could have been here, and when I was advised that it could not be.
Through the chair, we do require a 24 hours difference between the meetings. So unfortunately, it would still land in the same effective date.
All right, let's move on. So looks like there are no consent items. There's no resolutions, no notice of motion, and therefore the meeting is adjourned and will reconvene at 6.